Vigilante Wednesday here in the 68th episode of the Culture Crime Fighters, joined by my partner in Culture Crime Fighting. Oh my goodness. The man, the myth, the legend himself, Matt from Foulball Production. How you doing?
I am very well, Vigilante Williamson, and it's a pleasure to be here as always. We're out here fighting culture crime, although on my podcast I had an emotional breakdown about fighting culture crime, so I don't even know who or what I am anymore. I don't know what kind of content I want to make. I don't know. But I'm here, man. I'm here to talk and make jokes, and that's mostly what I'm here to do. Talk and make jokes.
Well, shit, you know what? To me, culture crime fighting is not just pop culture crime fighting, it's mass culture crime fighting, man. Because the stuff I'm thinking about, we just did a pre-show, all the topics that we're probably going to talk about. But like, my thing now is just trying to get better. I'm in the same boat. I was just telling comics division at Anime Matsuri, little plug, mix, and July. That's what we call them. That's what the stars call him. No,
I was glad you got to meet him. I saw that on the live stream. That was cool.
And you know what? Another thing that was cool is just a couple days ago, I got this new mask. So I feel like this is literally the first public appearance of Vigilante Williamson. And I got to do all these cool things. And the move to Texas has like legitimately been validated. You know what I mean? Because I was able to meet you in person. I met 24 in person. I met now because I was able to do this. I met everybody else in person. Because a lot of people, Comics is based out of San Antonio. Neurotic now based out of San Antonio. Air July based out of Dallas. So a lot of people are based out of Texas. Everyone else is based out of Florida. A lot of
people are based too.
Based.
No libs around here.
Fuck you, commies.
That's right.
No, we still like the commie bitches.
Yeah, kind of. They're so
they got some fat ass for some of these.
Yes, exactly. They do. They're just so mouthy. Ugh. They always want to tell me what to think. They always want to lecture me
what to do.
And they always think I'd never heard it before.
Well, because they never heard it before. They feel so smart once they realize that they learned. Like, did you hear about the good Lord Karl Marx? That's just like
straight up.
Yeah.
It's like like this girl, like I think I might have mentioned this, but she was just I said this last week, and she was just like, well, I don't really think you know what feminism is. I'm like, if there's anything in this world that I know, it's what feminists think. Trust me, it has been impossible to escape. I would love to live in a world where I didn't know what feminists think. That would be a utopia. That would be an actual utopia. Unfortunately, I am very, very well versed on what feminists think, and I still disagree. And it's not going to change me the 457th time I hear it.
Well, shit, you probably know more about feminism than most of these broads do because they don't really know. They just sign up for it because that's what's hot in the streets. If it was hot in the streets to wear a hijab, they would wear a hijab, no problem. But it's hot in the streets to be feminist. And so that's what it is. And so they just all listen to it. And so I don't really get engaged in this shit. I'm just like, oh, okay. Just ignore when they say crazy shit because crazy shit's going to get said.
This is true. And I need to learn how to do that. Like, Daniela was telling me, she's just like, or you could say nothing. And I'm like,
let it slide.
It's hard. It's hard to not say things and hear bullshit and not address it. I don't know. I need to learn how to do it because it doesn't work for me. It doesn't.
Man, self-discipline as a concept is a hard motherfucker, man. And what I'm trying to do is trying to leverage what I want versus what the short term. So in that case, you have to say, listen, I want to bust a nut in this woman's mouth, so I'm not going to say anything because I want to bust a nut. Because the goal is more important than the short term, and so I'm trying to do that with food. It's obviously failed so far, but it will.
You gotta have vision in this life.
You have to have vision. Now, after you realize
eye on the prize, and that is her coochie.
Exactly.
God bless, bitch.
You have to. If you were goal-oriented, you would have just said...
Goal-oriented, yes.
You would just say, okay.
That's great.
Because they're just saying it. I know this shit is going to get me canceled if we're not canceled, probably. I don't know.
Oh, whatever. We're not big enough to be canceled.
Yeah.
We're not going to waste energy on this little show. I did have some questions, though. Because we talked about how it was weird meeting. How was it meeting Comics Division?
That was weird, too. And a lot of it is weird because I have this fucking mask on. And it feels weird. Comics Division is cool as shit. And we had a conversation. One, he's normal sized. He's not a dwarf.
He's not.
He's normal human size.
He's just normal, yeah.
Yeah. And so that was kind of, I was expecting like Prince. And it's not that. So
did you see his beautiful, dazzling eyes?
I couldn't really make out any, like the eye.
The mask.
Yeah, the mask. The mask obscured detail. But that was weird. It almost made me feel.
You get lost in him.
Yeah, really?
He's got really pretty eyes. He really does.
Oh, man. I did not see the sight.
They're like a smoky kind of crystal blue. They're very, very pretty eyes on that Comics Division.
Look at there. See, I didn't see him. And the only person who saw Gary actually saw me without the mask. He knows my secret identity. He saw Batman as Bruce Wayne.
When?
Because like I was just walking. I'm like, that looks like Gary from Neurotic. And I'm like, Gary? He's like, yeah. I'm like, it's Vigilante Wayne. He's like, hey. And he just said, what up? And my brother's dressed as Master Roshi. And we just all talked for a little bit. I didn't really know what to say because he was right fucking in person. He gave me a hug. I'm like, holy shit. Cool. And I'm like, oh shit. I just happened to be walking down there. I didn't know where they were set up. They were set up at a different place. But we just walking around, saw him, and then he went one direction, came back with Ryan Cannell. And at that point, I put my mask on. I'm like, man, I need to keep my mask back on. And then he was like, hey, is that Vigilante Wayne? I'm like, yeah, hey, it's Ryan Cannell and Neurotic. And then they walked the other direction. And then I actually saw Eric July walk by. But again, I'm in a mask. So I'm like, I really couldn't make out to see what it was.
Yeah, Eric you're July. Like, it's just some black guy. It wasn't Eric.
But no, it was. It turned out it was him later on when I saw him.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it was pretty cool. And it was pretty cool. This is my second convention in the past couple of weeks. But first as Vigilante. My first public appearance as Vigilante. I don't know. I couldn't come up with a costume or like a look, so I just put on this basketball shit just for the fuck of it.
I thought it looked cool.
And it worked. It worked. So people, I took pictures. I took a picture with Static Shock. I took pictures with a bunch of people.
Who's Static Shock? Like the superhero?
There was a guy dressed as Static Shock.
Oh, okay.
It was a cosplay. It was a lot of cosplay, not like the actual Static Shock. No.
Is this like The Boys, where like the comic books are based on real superheroes? Like I don't know.
No. It was yeah, it was cool. A lot of cosplay. My brother was dressed up as Master Roshi. He was on Instagram. That's probably gonna dox me because there's probably a picture where I'm in the background or something. Who knows? But
Master Roshi, I don't know who that is.
It's a Dragon Ball Z. He's a Dragon Ball Z character.
Oh, I never watched Dragon Ball Z.
Oh man. But yeah, he was. I guess he was on Instagram. Like people, if you looked up Anime Matsuri, and I think he was one of the only Master Roshis online. So everybody, because it was like walking around with a celebrity. So many people wanted pictures with him. You would thought cool. he was the real character. It was like real guy, yeah. People really got like, oh my god, can I please let me take a picture? I'm like,
wow,
it's not like he's Michael Jackson. He's just a guy dressed in a costume. Like, it was like, please, like, seriously, can I please take a picture? Like, it was like really like heartfelt and like, he was cool. He was so cool though. He was just like, did the laugh and everything. Just acted like he was Master Roshi. It was cool. It was really cool. And just the convention itself was cool. We didn't get to go into the hentai part, so there's that.
That's
we should have, but we didn't.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
not my thing, honestly.
The last time I was at, this is going to sound like, but it's going to make sense in a second.
Yeah.
The last time I was at a strip club, it was really, really fun. Because, by the way, I don't know if you've been to a strip club yet in Texas. They are a lot different than the strip clubs I've been to in other parts of the country. Like, you can touch the girls. You can touch the girls. Bro, I was like, watching this dude.
Everywhere.
No, you get the shit kicked out of you. There was like this girl was grinding on this dude, and he was like all up on her titties. I'm like, what's happening here?
Whoa.
And so, yeah. So then there was a stripper, and she was hot, and she I walked up to like the little stage, but it was just a little like a private stage, and then she just backed up onto me like doggy style. I was like, holy fuck, I can't believe this is happening. And then she I was just like, I could touch her now. This is nuts. It was wild. Anyway, though, but the point is that normally when I'm in a strip club, this particular instance was a lot of fun, but generally when I'm in a strip club, I get a little creeped out because I'm like, oh, this is kind of weird. I'm in like a room full of dudes with like hard-ons. This is gross.
Yeah, that's why I don't like strip clubs.
No, and I think that's how I would feel being in the hentai section of the anime thing. I'd be like, oh, this is gross. We're all like looking at porn as a group. This is creepy.
Well, I think there's an added just novelty. Like there was like a little sectioned off. At first, I thought you had to pay for it, but all you have to do is show your ID. I just thought it was just like especially to document. It's just something funny to document and shit like that. Because I did have outside of
that would be funny, yeah.
And it's just a funny thing to see. It was just like the novelty of it, not like because I don't watch hentai. You know what I'm saying? So it's not even a thing that I like. That you know what I mean. This doesn't turn me on. It just would be weird to see the tentacles and all the jokes and shit.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny.
And I brought a camera with me. This EOS M, which is a cheap old camera because I can't afford new fancy shit. And I like documented parts of it, and I wanted to make a video out of that, see how that went. And I streamed part of it. It was fun. It was fun to do. It felt douchey streaming though, man. I
heard you saying that, and I thought that was really funny.
Oh, it just felt like I'm that guy. I'm that guy. I hate every time I go to the gym, and there's somebody who's like recording themselves and doing anything. It bothers me. Just like, I'll douchey. I'll self-absorb. And I'm the one streaming.
It's so interesting. The thing about that is I think it takes a degree of not giving a fuck. Because I know exactly the feeling that you have. Because I have all these ambitions to make like food and drink content, but I'm just so mortified at going to like a food truck and being the guy. I'm like, hey guys, here we're at the fucking food truck. Blah, blah. Like that does douche me out. But whenever I watch those videos, I'm not aware of that feeling.
You don't think of that, yeah.
No, when I'm watching the video. And I wasn't aware of that while I was watching your stream. I wasn't like how douchey it is that Vig is streaming. I was like, oh, this is tight. Like I was hoping I'd get a good I was kind of secretly hoping that Steph would retweet because I put your stream on Twitter and I was hoping that it could get it could be one of those things where a lot of people go check it out. I was hoping. It didn't work out, but I mean I was hoping that would happen. Yeah, because I was like, oh, that's dope that Vig is there live. I was like, that's sick. It's like insight, So it's kind of one of those things where it's like maybe if you acknowledge that it's douchey, it dissipates. I don't know, but I did that. Me and what's her name? Daniela did the from Jester King. We did a live not a live video, but we recorded there with people around, and she basically just forced me to do it, so I did it, and I'm really proud of the footage. I'm really happy that I have it. And the public embarrassment that I was feeling at the time, whatever, that all is gone. And what I do have is footage from a place that I liked. So I totally empathize, but I think it's one of those things where it's like, gotta just push through it.
You're right, because I could have took more footage. I mean, I took some of like with the camera, and it looks. I mean, hopefully I don't get fucked up frames because again, it's an old cheap camera using this fucking pirate OS or whatever the fuck. But whatever, it allows me to make up in quality what I couldn't do dollar-wise. So in any event, I'm hoping it turns out good because it looks good, but I could have taken more. I could have taken more like with I could have taken more with Airy July. I could have tried to push that issue. I could have taken more even with Comics Division. While we were walking from the auditorium to that little booth section, we had a conversation. I should have streamed or recorded or something because it was like a cool everyone joked about me getting yeeted for asking everyone if they're grifters, but that's not really what I was going to ask, but just ask like, hey, how do you guys feel about sometimes maybe they're expecting your reaction? Like, you know what I mean? Do you ever feel like weird about
Good
that?
Question.
That, I asked Comics Division that on the way down there. And he said, and we just talked about it, there's the balance of people do have to know, which I acknowledged as well. Cause shit, this Thor thing, people were just shocked. They were like, huh, did you know there's feminists and gender and lesbians and Thor? What the? Oh my God. And I'm like, oh my God, they don't know. They don't know. They do need, they have to find out. Otherwise, these things have to be talked about so more people can find out. But there's also that balance of, I think in some cases, even if it doesn't work, even if they fail at it, there's no such thing as bad publicity, and they can get cheap heat by just making something woke or having Cowboy Bebop. They failed because it was a shitty show, but they had the girl talk shit about the fans and shit. It's like they know what they're doing. They're trying to stir up they're anger at people. So just for attention's sake, anyway. And how do you guys feel about being a part of it? That's what I wanted to ask everybody.
Oh yeah. Like that's actually because it's almost like from a personal perspective, you and I have kind of been through. Like I don't because I was thinking about it just today. Like I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it before coming on this stream, and it was like there is something I do feel at times, and this is probably just a personal thing, but sometimes I do feel like I am chasing the grift, meaning like
Mm.
I want to race to get to a story first or put something out, like like so that it's my clicks that I get about the topic. But it's like, it's not very virtuous because it's like, well, I'm really just I want to be the first one to hear what you already agree with or something. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
I want to be the first one with the take that you already are going to hear. You're going to hear from multiple outlets or sources. I'm like, well, that's okay. That's not that's not the business I want to be in. That's not the type
Yeah.
of content I want. I don't want to be that guy. That doesn't interest me. I think it's like I'm not gonna. That's not gonna be the virtue that I uphold. But it is an interesting. It is an interesting topic. It is an interesting question, especially for guys who it's like it's not that they're grifting. It's just that now they're kind of in that thing, and that's what they have to do, right? Like
Yeah.
Gary couldn't just start talking about metal and just
Yeah.
make that would be insane. People are like, what the fuck, dude? Talk about the new. We want to hear you trash,
Yeah.
Disney or whatever. That's what we're
He
here
could
for.
maybe add that as like a force, like, oh, just talk about stuff that he likes. He does sometimes talks about old music he likes, but that's not the main focus of his channel, right?
No.
Just
His brand is very concrete, and it works.
yeah,
I mean, he's over 500,000 fucking subs.
yeah, yeah.
Going back to all the anime stuff, though, where did you get the mask?
This mask was made by a mask maker or a lucha mask maker that I found on the internet.
Wow,
And
that's cool, dude.
it wasn't that expensive. And I'm thinking about asking them to get because I'm thinking of changing the color scheme a little bit, or just
How
at least
much? Can I ask how much?
It wasn't. You know what? I said, yeah, it was 125, which I consider not to be that much,
That's
considering
not bad.
how I had other quotes that were in the 4-figure mark. So I'm like, well,
Wow, four
you
figures.
you win. You know what I mean? Like, I'll do you 125 in a heartbeat over that. But I mean, I
Thousands?
can
There was thousands for the custom
I
mask?
because I went to different costume makers. I went to a few different people, and they said, yeah, we can start at like 1,500. I'm like, whew.
Wow.
But at the same time, even though I wouldn't do, I mean, I wish I was, if this channel ever blows up, I would love to get like a really detailed, this mask's pretty good too, but really like
Looks great.
super detailed oriented mask. But it did make me think because the only, being there, people thought it was Bane because it does look similar to Bane.
It does kind of look Banish.
Yeah, especially early comic book Bane. And so that's what people thought it was. So I'm like, man, maybe I need to do something to it to make it more distinct. But this
I don't
is,
know. I mean, it matches your logo, which I think
yeah. But that's the thing that like maybe the logo has to change and this has to change to be another design. I don't know. There's something that just crossed my mind, even though I do like it.
Yeah, I think it looks good. The only issue is you can't see out of it, right?
Yeah, which I'm
Is
like I said, I got to get a needle and I'm going to poke holes in it so I can hopefully.
Oh, okay.
Get a
Make sure you
more
take
vision.
it off first.
Yeah, the plan is just to gouge my eyes out.
Oh no, what have I done?
That's
I
how I
didn't think
feel.
this through at all.
90% of the time. Actually, I did not want to gouge my eyes out at the anime Matsuri or at either of these conventions, man. It's a lot of fine booty meat hanging out, man.
Really?
Man, it made me realize that some of my MGTOW shit was in a vacuum, man.
Nice.
Because it's like everybody has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. You see a large butt cheeks, like, man, I need to lose weight and get some bitches. What am I doing? Like, what am I doing? What is this? What is this?
You got grifted. You're like getting deprogrammed from
Yes.
MGTOW. Yeah.
And I think, but I understand some of it because I'm not trying to, these girls is grifting guys, man. I get it. I get being cautious. I get being understanding, the laws. I get being anti-marriage, anti-having kids, anti-single mother. I'm with all this. But let's not act like we're just going to go like, all right, I'm about to go for the rest of my life. Like, no, that's not the plan. Or even that I'm about to go mega pimp and just never get in any serious relationship ever. Right. And then it's like, that's not a good, a balance. There's balance to be had within
There is balance to be had. Yeah, that's insightful. That's interesting. Well, that's cool, man. I'm glad you had fun at the convention. I think that's tight. I
Yes.
like that you like made it public. I like that you like live stream from there. I think that's all really cool. Very cool.
Yeah. 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 I mean, we were talking. I can't remember if it was off air or on air because we had like a show before the show. But we were talking about like branding and where we're doing with this channel, and I'm just like, I think it's just gonna do everything I can do. Like, I want to do more music, especially like using this camera more. I want to do like music oriented content, and you guys haven't seen the camera stuff, but you will hopefully. Um, but music oriented content, and not just like music as in performances of my music and shit, parts of me trying to create it, and even like tutorials if I can come up with something that other people might want to use. I'm just like, I'm gonna toss that as a part of it. I'm gonna still talk about the content I want to talk about, still do this show, try to do another show weekly as well, and go from there and just kind of let the chips what they may and try to put as much content on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok as I can and go from there. And these are the habits I'm trying to establish. This is the goal, and somehow try to lose fucking weight while I'm doing it. If I can do this, I will be a complete vigilante. That's the first quest in the vigilante ways, and the first chapter, I guess.
I support
So
it.
yeah,
I 100% support it, brother.
appreciate it, man.
You know, I'm behind it. Yeah, that is something too that does get a little like I've been trying to have a really disciplined morning routine, right? I've been trying to wake up 8 o'clock, like no questions asked. I'm up at 8,
Yeah.
and then like clean up a little bit, or I go for a walk too. Is the first thing I do in the morning. Great, that is so good for me, brother. It's like it just opens you up. You're breathing fresh air. You're like alive. It's very healthy. I love it. And then meditate, eat some breakfast, go to the gym, and then come back and then start work. It's been tougher though. Like somehow like it gets all kind of a little stretched out. Or then like when I get back from the gym, I'm kind of tired. You know what I mean? So my what's it called? Like my focus or my enthusiasm to work isn't quite there as much. It's like it's one of those things where it's like it's good to do those things, but yeah, the follow through is really the most important part.
Yeah, and shit, I gotta find a place for the gym, and I don't know where it is. Like, I don't know what times best suit going to the gym for me. I haven't figured that out.
It's tough. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not easy, especially when you got a full time job. Like when you're working around having a
Yeah.
job, it's tough. I mean, it's just difficult. Like when I'm working at the restaurant, it's like I'm there late. And then it's like if I don't get to bed like in the next few hours, it's like, well, I'm pretty much just gonna wake up and get ready for work and then go to work again. It's like
Yeah.
so if I want to hit the gym, then I got to get to bed and make sure I'm up early so that I have enough time. Like it's not easy. It's
Yeah.
a constant thing. And then also you're like, well, all right, when do I do YouTube? And you're like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to prioritize everything, man, because that's been a big struggle. Like with me in the gym, it's like, okay, so I don't really feel like doing anything after work. Like I can do stuff, and then I try to do like music stuff. And the habit I've been trying to establish with that. But okay, cool. Well, okay, I can't. I have maybe 1 or 2 good hours of activity after work. Like I have more time than that, but of like actual energy to do stuff. So I can either go to the gym or do music. I cannot do both on the same day. I wish I could. I wish I had more energy. Maybe if I get healthier, I get more energy. But where I'm at now, this is what I have. So I was like, okay, what do I do? And I got to just establish a schedule so I can at least go 3 or 4 times a week, and then
yeah, habits.
Habits. That's why I've been trying to read all this habit. You got me on the atomic habits. Been trying to. That's because that seems like the thing. I was I know you're on the Stoicism kick. I was coming across this self-discipline book, and it said you're supposed to be more process oriented instead of event oriented. And as far as like having a process and seeing and following through that process, that being more important than what you're doing as far as like the events of what it is. Just the habit of it, the process of it is the important thing, in establishing it and maintaining it. That's the key and shit like that. So that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm aiming for, right? That's what we got to aim
that's
for.
Pretty
right?
righteous, man. And I like that's a truism that's like very helpful because I realize when I'm creating my content, like a lot of it I make it too precious.
Yeah. I do the
You
same.
know, too precious, and when it doesn't work out or it doesn't go, I get deflated. You know, and it's like, then that kind of like hurts my, enthusiasm for the next video or whatever. So it's like, it is more important to just have a process and be consistent and move forward, and one step after the other, no matter what. Like that's the way I think that people who are successful actually make it. Like, at least that's the
Yeah.
thing that seems to be the most universal connective tissue from all the people that I listen to.
Yeah, I've heard it described as a some with monotony, just like a continuous monotony. Like success is a continuous monotony of those little things and just doing them consistently. A consistent monotony. Maybe that's the word. I can't remember the phrase I heard, but it's something along those lines of just getting in love with doing that, in love or in habit of doing that, whether you love it or not. Just like you're doing that every day, no matter what it is, and that's how you become good or great at anything.
Yeah,
Just
for real. It's huge. And it's also like living up to yourself too. Like when we were talking a few weeks ago about like having like a monthly D&D game with some of my members, and I was like, I want to do that, and then I forget about it for a few days. I'm like, oh shit, like do that. You know what I mean? Like get that ball started. Like it's like one of the, it's like I don't want to let people down either. As much as it's like
me
it's
too.
also about me. There's also people that pay to fucking get my content, so it's like I owe them something.
Yeah, you do. The fuck? No, just joking.
I know. No, for real.
No. I mean, I get that. So I guess that's life, man. It's always just trying to get better, trying to do better, and trying to hold yourself to a higher standard and keep the standard. That's like the consistency is key. I've seen that a million times, and that's what I'm aiming for. We'll see what I hit, man. We'll see what I hit.
Word.
Hopefully,
Memento mori as well. That's the Stoicism thing that helps me focus. Memento mori. Remember, you're gonna die.
Is that what that means?
Because what it means is tomorrow's not guaranteed. It's
True.
You have right now. That's all you have. That's all that's promised. It's all that's guaranteed. It's this moment right now. You don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know what's tomorrow's got in store for you. The one day you will be completely out of time and you will die. So it's just remember that. Like stay in the present. Take advantage of as many days as you can, and so that you don't lose them, so you don't find yourself with regrets, and you don't find yourself looking back like, wow, I fucked everything up. It's like live right now, memento mori. It's like it's very helpful. At first I didn't like it, but now I think it's really empowering.
Because okay, so I don't know if it's an issue, but it's just like my question about that is like that almost, I don't want to say it feels counterintuitive to what we just said, but it's like in my head, if I'm living like I can die any day, then I'm less likely to be focused on the minutia. Because like, oh man, I could die tomorrow. Why spend this time editing this YouTube? I should be having fun because I could die tomorrow. You know what I mean? And so that's my only like personal, when I hear that and I think about it, it's like, well, what about, how do you recognize and respect that, yeah, one day I'm not going to be here, and I don't know when that day is. It may be 40 years from now, maybe 40 minutes from now. I don't know. Or maybe 400 years. Who knows? I mean, obviously not that. You get my point. It's like, so if it is, whenever it is, if I focus on that, that's going to lead me off like, well, I don't want to be a part of minutia. I'd rather, quote unquote, make more from that. You know what I mean?
So that's an interpretation as well. I don't know if it's a sustainable one though, because I think eventually you will be reminded that like you can't just do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even though it's like, yes, it's a possibility, it's like it's not currently what's happening. So I think it's more about time than your actual death. Just a reminder that there's only so many weeks left. There's only so many days left. Only so many hours before you don't have any time. So make this moment count, I think, is what it's really supposed to be.
Okay. That makes sense too.
Like it's Marcus Aurelius says, like, you wait for tomorrow to be great when you could be great today, or something to that effect. And it's essentially like, why wait till, like, you put it off. It's like you're putting off your whole life. It's like, take advantage of the now.
I see. Okay. Okay.
That's what these guys say. And it's like, I respond to that. And I think it's like, it's a, the other thing too is like another Marcus Aurelius thing is this necessary? Meaning, like, is what you're doing right now, is it necessary? So to me, it's a good way to kind of like prioritize, right? Like if you're like, you want to dick around on video games like all night, you know what I mean? It's like, is this necessary? It's like, no, probably not. Like there's a necessary like blowing off steam and just kind of not thinking for a while. That's necessary. But like, is it necessary to go all night? You know, like it's one of those things where you just start to at least for me, it helps me prioritize my time and my energy. You know,
Is it necessary? I like that. That's a very good thing to ask yourself because not everything is. Not everything is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Stoicism's got a lot of good wisdom in it, man. It's very practical. And once I started getting into it, I did realize, like, you think of philosophy as like something abstract or, kind of like a collegiate thing. But the thing
Mm-hmm.
is, we all live our lives by philosophies, whether we know it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it might be our own, it might be religious, it might be, SJW, whatever. But you do have a philosophy that you live by, whether you are aware of that philosophy or not. So, me getting involved in this one is like, oh, it's challenging beliefs or, ideals or whatever that I've had in my head that, like, oh, maybe this isn't the most constructive belief to have, or maybe I am too like fatalistic where I just kind of am like imagining like when it all comes together, or you know what I mean, not taking advantage of my own ability to create or produce or get better, or just whatever, a million different things. But it is interesting, like for me to realize that, like, oh yeah, no, I mean, philosophy is life. Like we are governed by our own philosophies, whether we know it or not.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
And it's an
I
interesting
mean,
one to actually like explore, one that's not just our hodgepodge or patchwork ideas. It's one that's like tried and true and ancient
mhm.
and structured and empowering and enriching. It's like, fuck, that's cool. Like it's
Yeah, it
cool to get
is.
into a school of thought like that.
And I think you kind of hinted at it. A lot of the modern era. We criticize it based on SJW. That's how we started, right? But it's more to that. It's more. It's there's. Ooh, excuse me. All this damn water.
Hmm.
But there is something about the hodgepodging and the non-structuralness relative to humanity as a whole that the past 100 years of culture have done. Like, we joke about dating and shit. Like, there was a convention that worked for generations, and that's no longer the conventions we use. And that's not just dating; it's a lot of elements of life, of which we have totally like, you know, gone away from what worked, gone away from things that
Yeah.
proved themselves to be over time in order to facilitate what's new. To the extent that so many people base their whole logic and their philosophies over just what has happened the past 100 years, as if that is the whole of humanity, and that's
That's a
not the
great
case.
point. It's a
Yeah.
terrific point. Yeah. It's a lack of scale, it's a lack of scope, it's a lack of perspective. And it's
Mm.
also like a presumption that A, this has always been here, and B, it will always be here.
Yes. Yes, that's how that's why every institution has to be taken over, because it's an institution, therefore it'll last forever. So that means I can make impact forever, right? And it just
Yeah.
exists. You know what I mean? It was always been here since I've been alive, therefore it has always been here. There's no thought of like, no, this thing is something. I was talking in the comments of a section about the NBA where they talk about all the old players were just plumbers and shit. And it's like, well, like the reason you're watching the current NBA is because enough people like that old NBA to keep it around long enough for this one. Like, you have no context to the fact that the NBA is not something that just exists. It's something that humans
Right.
had to work at to keep it existing for you to even get what you have now. You just like give them some respect. Of course, they can't do quite everything with the sports science and the rules and all that. No shit. But like, don't be disrespectful of them, because they're the reason you have what you currently have. But there's no scale to the institution that was built based upon other people's work. It's always been alive since I've been alive. So it's always been here. And those people just aren't as good as these people. It's like, no, it's deeper than that. It's something else there.
That's the problem with the whole leftist mentality, to be completely
Mm-hmm.
honest, is that it's generally just only critical and negative and doesn't respect the fact that there could be something far worse than what we have right now. And If you were even mildly socially honest, you could look at so many different nations that do have things and institutions that are far worse. And while it's not to say we should overlook the imperfections and that we shouldn't be always, shaping a better tomorrow, it's you have to respect that this is the best that a lot of people could do, and it's not that bad. Like, it's not perfect. There's lots of things I have problems with, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like you have to understand that, like, a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of hours, a lot of lives went into like making this like a relatively stable society, a relatively free society. And like you can critique it all you want, but to just look at it as all bad, it's like I think you are underestimating how much went into making just the things that you take for granted every single day.
Yeah, yeah. They're taking for granted, and that's what you can't do. That's what makes That's what you talking about stoicism and talking about something that's tried and true. I think that's one thing that's almost become a thing. I've I've seen stoicism as like a concept at a little bit not pushed more, but that there are more people kind of getting into it and other
Mm-hmm.
philosophies or even religion and kind of getting more into these things as a response to the kind of every institution is terrible. That's kind of led a counter response of like, okay, let's actually read philosophy and start to kind of apply it because it did work. You know what I mean? Or at least for some
Yeah.
people. Everything's not going to work for everyone, but there's some people who absolutely were able to thrive because of it. So let's, it doesn't mean it's all bad just because whatever.
Well, we also live in such a binary kind of world, right? It's sort of
Yeah.
like you're either an SJW or a Republican. It's just like, well, can I be neither? Like, I don't want to be either one. Like,
Yeah.
I
Can I be
don't
a
think
human
either.
still?
Yeah, like I do respect individuality. It's like not to say that I don't. I think all tradition is bad or all institutions are bad. I just think like I don't. I don't want to have to like convert.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to. You know what I mean? Like to go through like a ceremony and then like get like a brand on my forehead and now I'm part of that thing. It's like I don't know. Like I'd like to take the parts that I agree with and not the parts that I don't, and have my own philosophy about life or my own perspective. I don't want to I don't want to live to serve some amorphous collection.
Yeah. It's like, yeah,
It's
you have
not.
to declare yourself. Um, you have to brand yourself. That's something that's been a thing for the past, I'd say, social media era. It became this thing of, and it goes deeper than this. This is this is the division of philosophy of politics is way older than social media, and division of any kind is older than social media. But there's something in the social media era was like, I think that's how we got identity politics in around, or one of the contributing factors to identity politics was this idea of me having to always declare myself as something, right? Always have to, not every opinion. I need an opinion on everything. Everyone sees the article that everyone needs to talk about, then everyone leaves a comment. So I have to have an opinion on everything. I have to be involved with everything. I have to be a part of everything. And it's like an unintentional collectivism. And it kind of lost my train of thought. Hold
Well, I mean,
on.
I don't think collectivism is like a necessarily like a leftist
No.
creation. I mean, it's always sort of been a thing. It's you go back to the foundation of this country. There were the different parties. You know what I mean? There's like the Federalists, and then there's like the Whigs, and there's like all
Yeah.
these different. Like it's not new. It's just that we in the 20th century we got into such an enlightened point of view about the way of the world and the nature of humanity, mostly because we lived in relative peace. So
Hmm.
we were able to kind of explore some of these ideas and really unchain people from being genuinely like under oppressive institutions where you can,
Hmm.
we live in a country where you can say fuck the government, fuck the church, fuck everything. I could just all day long, I could just say that all I want to, obviously there might be some social repercussions, but there's no legal repercussions. And that's
Hmm.
pretty novel. That's still novel in the world.
Yeah, it is. It's still novel for history. I guess the point I was trying to make, which I kind of lost, was that something in the basic psychology of the average person saw themselves as needing to declare everything about themselves to everyone at all times. That became like a
Yes.
thing. And as a result of that, it became a thing to like Well, because I'm declaring and because so many of us declaring, now we expect everyone to declare themselves as whatever you are. You know, you're a Republican MAGA hat wearing whatever, or you're a liberal with rainbow every June and everything you're supposed to do along those lines. You're supposed to declare because we've been declaring things, and this is how it is. It's expected to even have a personal social media. That's expected. Everyone has one, right? What the fuck are you? What are you weird?
Yeah,
You don't have a
swear your
social media?
allegiance. Just swear your allegiance to someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's really weird, and it's weird too. Like I found like individualism is almost more rejected than even allegiance to the other side, right? Like I think
Mm-hmm.
in California or even Austin, if I called myself a Republican, like even though it wouldn't be well received, I think it would kind of be like, okay, you know, it's like, all right, he's part of that. Like if I say I came from, if I came from like the South, right? And I went to
Mm-hmm.
California and said I was a Republican, people would be like, all right, well, that's his culture. Like they would have, but the fact that I'm like, I don't really believe your ideas because I personally don't agree with them, that's
Mm-hmm.
almost more egregious.
Mm. That's interesting. You're right though, right? Like, cause you then it's like, well, you're just a troll. Like, what do you mean you don't fit into
Yeah.
one of these two logics? You must be a troll. You're just what's
Yeah.
wrong with you?
Like there was this dude that I went to acting class with, and he was a nice guy, but he had like he said like, oh, so you must be socially liberal, fiscally conservative. I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, why do I have to fit into some fucking category, man? Like, why
Yeah.
can't you just take my ideas as the ideas that they are and not have to like categorize where I'm coming from and just deal with them as I'm throwing them at you? Like, let's just have a conversation with two human beings. Like, I just don't know why that's so necessary for people to categorize others and put them on these in these boxes to be like, well, okay, that's where you lie. It's like I guess
Well,
on some things, but not on everything.
well, part of it is that deep down, as much as we want to be individuals, we also want to be a part of a group that's kind of like part of human nature. So, like, we expect everyone else to be a part of a group. It's one thing, if another rival tribe comes here, if just one guy, just random guy walks in, like, what the fuck does he want? What is
That's
he
a good
doing
point.
here? You know what
That's
I
a good
mean?
point.
So it's just like so novel to us. It's something like, oh, this must be extra dangerous. Just one motherfucker wandering in to the hunter gatherer village, and we don't know who he is. We don't know where he got from. He ain't leaving this motherfucker. Fuck him. You know what I'm saying?
That's like actually a very good point. From like an evolutionary psychology point of view, that makes a lot of sense. You're just like,
Yeah.
okay, so you're not affiliated with that tribe, and you have some problems with some of the things we do, but not all the things. But you don't like what that tribe does. Not all those things. Who the fuck do you think you are with your own ideas?
Yeah. Go start your own fucking tribe. Get the fuck out of here. You know what I
Get
mean?
out of
Like, what are you
here.
doing here? So yeah, I
That's
think
an
there's just
interesting. That's
something.
an interesting thing. Do
It's
you
yeah, I
like?
think it is an evolutionary. It's like we're just not used to individuals.
Do you have the capability to like conform to a group?
Poorly. So that's my problem. I can what because I have the capability of just being silent as fuck. I'm a naturally quiet person, and so as a result, I can just like silently conform, which I'm sure a lot of people do anyway, right? Where you just like, all right, I think all this is bullshit, but I don't want to be shot in the head, so I'll just do the thing. You know what I mean? I could probably do that. Fortunately, unfortunately, whatever the case may be, where he's just okay. I can just, but I at the same time, I don't spiritually conform. I always know this is bullshit. I just don't
Yeah,
have any means to do anything. And
spiritually.
if I could find somebody to have a conversation and we can look at each other, this is bullshit, right? Yeah, yeah, of course it's bullshit. Okay, I still would
So
need to do
yeah,
that.
you can't genuinely sacrifice your own ideas for like the sake of the
No,
group, right? Like I can't do it. Like I've tried. I
yeah.
really tried in Hollywood. Like not to lie, but to fit in. Like I really tried. Like I I I I wouldn't say go so far as to say like I started being like, yeah, white men are terrible, but like there would be times where like a
Dyed your
Trump
hair
joke
purple?
would what's that?
I said you dye your hair purple?
No, I didn't do any of that, but it's like there'd be like I'd try to make like a Trump joke with them or something, or like try to get in on like, and I don't know, it was like impossible. Like I just couldn't fit in because it was so contrary to my nature. Like it's such a lie, like not that I'm combative with people all the time, but it's so difficult for me to just be like, yeah, I don't have my own opinions on any of this. Like I don't even know how to function like that. Like I'm like, I guess individualistic to a fault. I don't know, but I really have a problem. Like I wish I could. I really think my life would be easier if I could just conform sometimes.
Man, sometimes I feel similar because I think it's something. It's hard to at the same time, man. It's hard to conform because it's like some of the ways you're meant to conform, like you said, are so contrary and so like it's like everybody in order to just exist in this crazy fucking world has to conform to something, right? You have to conform some of your time to go to work to pay your bills and shit. But there's like a limit to that. Like you can't like I wouldn't go to work if I had to get butt fucked at my job. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
Right.
whatever that limit is. And that's an extreme, but it goes a little closer to where it's like maybe it's what if they told you to wear a mask at work? It's like, oh shit, I don't really have to wear the mask now. You know what I mean
I
on
did it.
YouTube land.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I mean I did it like at work and I didn't believe in it, but the second I was able to keep my job and not wear a mask, I've gone.
Yeah.
And of course I would always make jokes.
Yeah.
Can't help it. I can't help it. I don't know. I'm a troublemaker. I'm a problem. I don't know. I just can't not. I don't know. I genuinely wish that I could get along sometimes, and I don't know. It's like my nature to be critical.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who have that nature. It's weird. It's a kind of a dual nature. It's one of the like I said, we all do want to be a part of a group. We all do want to fit in, but also we also want our own thoughts to be respected, and that kind of that balance.
Mm-hmm.
How do you
That's
manage
tough.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like at the same time coexisting with that. Like I desperately want acceptance.
Yeah.
Like I desperately want to be liked and embraced. The two things stand in direct opposition to one another, but yet, here I am. I don't know.
Yeah. That's a yeah, and then I don't know to kind of there's something in the culture crimes we're trying to fight. There's something in the culture, and this is not even new to this era. It's something like I don't know, this controlled individualization or controlled individuality, or like where like there's really no option to not conform a little. You know what I mean? There's no true option of peer, like I don't know what would that be? Living off the grid, growing your own food, growing your own clothes. Like what can you
But
actually
I
do?
like being around. I like people.
Yeah,
I just don't like being forced to think a thing, and I don't like being my point of view or my like experiences being dismissed. That's
yeah.
all.
Which I
That's
get. I
really all I
mean,
want.
in many ways, no one does, and no one wants to feel like okay, what I experienced doesn't matter because of your opinion. It's like no, it does matter. It happened. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
My
Yeah.
opinion is just as valid as yours. Um, where was I going? I guess it's just when I say controlled individualization, it's just like or individuality. It's just like there's no because of so much of the opinion being the not just the opinion. There's so many things that are like you get options to do. You can either pick Republican or Democrat. You can either
Right.
wear jeans or slacks. You can either wear a polo or a button up, or you know what I mean. There's so many things in which the options are already kind of given to you. It kind of leads to anybody who wants something else. That is what most people are going to gravitate to the options they're already given. Anyone who falls outside of that is going to stand out like a sore thumb. You know what I mean?
It's true.
Even and I'm talking about intellectually. I gave the example of everything else, but anyone they're going to stand out like a sore thumb. So
It's true, and it's like you see even in groups that are like rebellious, how
mm-hmm.
they begin to have their own like conformity, standards, right? Like if
Yeah,
you think of punk rock, right? Punk rock is supposed to be completely anti-establishment. It's supposed to be rebellious. It's supposed to be purely individualistic. It's not supposed to, it's like counterculture to the max. But then after, a few years of it, it was like, oh, you're not punk enough. Oh, you're a poser. Oh,
the
you
no
don't
true
do this.
Scotsman argument.
Yeah. And then it's like, suddenly this rebellious thing. You have to hit these boxes to be a part of this rebellious group. It's like, what are you talking? Like, that's not the whole point of this. Is to be contrary to
Mm-hmm.
group conformity. Yet, here in this anti-conformist group, you have conformity demands.
Yeah, the anti-conformity becomes its own conformity. It's like that becomes the thing. Like we all have
Right.
to be
Are
anti-conformist
you?
in the same way.
Yeah, are you doing it right? Are you anti-conformist in the right way?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I always kind of thought not necessarily that about punk, but like punk became very corporate in the post Hot Topic world, in the post Green Day world, where it just became like another, like you're just another brand. You're not really a rebel anymore. You're a part of it. And you know what? Now that I say that, that's another new thing. That this is something that is generational. It used to be a thing where you didn't want to be a part of the establishment and you wanted to be anti-establishment. And over the past 15 years, post social media explosion, it is you want to be a part of the establishment. I saw it trying to get a tech job at how people cream themselves at the, and I get it, they're big jobs, they're big companies of Google or Microsoft, but it was like it felt like it was worship, like it was legitimate worship of these companies, because it was like that is the church. It is getting a job at Microsoft. You have been accepted into the Catholicism. You've been accepted to seminary, basically. Like
That's how Hollywood was.
yeah, and that felt weird. That felt really weird. I was only in that world a couple years trying to get a tech job, and there was some creepiness to it. And it was like everyone goes to these fucking little uh, bitch ass conventions and little meetups and all this dumb shit, and they just worship these tech guys. And then I went to one meetup, and it was this girl who actually worked at Microsoft. She had a picture with that old fucking demon, Billy Badass, Bill Gates, and the glee on her face that she got to hug this guy, like it was like that was her Pope. You know what I mean?
Kiss the
So
ring.
yeah, kiss the ring. So yeah, that's the new thing. It's not only the anti-conformity become its own conformity, but it's like anti-establishment isn't cool anymore. It's cool to be pro-establishment. It's cool to be the establishment and work for them and be a part of it, because now you're validated and accepted automatically because you're a part of the mainstream. So that's the new thing too. It's like it's not cool to do
I
your own
mean, the
thing.
mainstream has always been popular. It's always been cool,
Yeah.
but it's like it's interesting because it's like rebellion now is like true rebellion is really gross to them. Like you are really like an insect, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're the type of guy who, you voted for Trump, let's just say, and even that in certain circles can be conformist. But if you're going against
Yes.
these people who are mainstream, like Twitter or left wing progressive, cool, like progressive establishment people, like if you voted for Trump, it's not like, oh, that's rebellious. It's like how, you're a monster. Like you need to be eliminated. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not just like I don't see it your way. It's like, but then in certain circles, like voting for Trump is the fucking mainstream thing too.
Mm-hmm.
It's all very relative. But when you're saying about the tech thing, I mean, Hollywood was the exact same way when it came to like aggressively conforming to a system to the point where there is like a reverence that like people, it's almost like people would move away from like me or others who like didn't have like the thing that like they were gonna like. It's like the idea that you would have the wrong take. It's like, oh, I don't want to be associated with this person. Like I so have the right take. I so think the way you want me to think. I would never dare think for myself or contradict any of the doctrine. I'm 100% devout, and it's like it was wild. It's like Jesus Christ, like like that old thing. It's like, what does it profit a man to if he gets the whole world, but he has to sell his soul? It's like,
Yeah.
you want all this, you want to work and you want to be famous, and he's like, but you don't want to be yourself. Like you'd lose that to gain all that. It's like I don't know. I just don't identify with that. I just like
Mm-hmm.
that's not why I chose a rebellious lifestyle to be an actor. Like, not that that's like, oh man, but it's like it's contradictory to like the way you're supposed to go to your life, where you go to college and you get a job and you get a house. It's like it's a pirate thing to do, to just go out there and be like, I'm gonna make it. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I'm gonna do it. Like, that's a rebellious thing to do. And for me to go to a community where they're all like, hey man, here's what you're supposed to think and say and do, I was like, that's not at all why I started doing this. And they're like, well, you're not invited.
Yeah.
Beat it. It was weird. You're right. It's creepy.
And isn't that weird that that's how all kind of the creative elements of life, as far as the mainstream level of them, they all filter out the like. They are inherently nonconformist, but they all kind of filter out anyone who doesn't conform to whatever the hell their standard is. It's just like a earmark of all of them.
Duality.
Yeah.
Almost well, like I think there's something to be said for, even this corner of YouTube, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's certain takes we would give that would contradict, let's say, Mahler or Critical Drinker, that people would have a problem with, even if we genuinely felt them and we looked at it and we're like, nah, I don't agree with that. Like, not to say that, like, our fans necessarily would be like, fuck these guys, but like, there's people in the fellowship area that would not that would push back against that. It's like, us having a hot take that contradicts Gary or something like that. Like, a lot of people would be like, oh, how can you say that? Not that I would ever have this take, obviously, but if I was like, I don't know, Captain Marvel wasn't that bad. You guys are all kind of riled up about this one, but it wasn't that bad. Not that I believe that, but it's just like, if I did, it would be like,
Yeah, our fans would say, Jesus, man, did you fuck Brie? Like, what the hell? Like,
that was a terrible example with my track record. That was just the first one that came into my head. But
I know what you mean, though. But that was just wide open. I had to say something.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, since your dildo was already typing it, so I had to say
already
something.
There.
Yeah. But no, yeah, there definitely is that. That's been kind of something I've been I've been in a weird place with the fellowship, right? Because I just went to Anime Matsuri. I just met people, and it was awesome. And I still think the people are awesome, but I don't want to be. And I'm not even saying anyone in particular is doing this themselves, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to be an echo chamber member, and I don't want to. Which I don't think I ever really tried to, but I definitely tried to be, a part of the community and the fellowship, and do every show and try to get on everyone's show and try to do everything and try to be a part of it and try to have the have the right opinion on things. I mean, I would always try to have the, when I had the opinion on the Luke Skywalker thing, where I was like, this is a work. It's just I didn't have the term to say member berries, but just this isn't real. You know what I mean? I just picked up on it immediately, and I was like the only person who felt that way. So I don't have and I was early, a few months into my YouTube career. So I never really had a issue with being contrary, if that's what I think. But I do, man, there's a, because the fellowship is multi-layered, some of those other layers before you get to me, it's just like, it's a bit, it's for some of the people, not all, for some of it gets a little bit like hero worshipy to layers.
It gets hero worshipy. It also gets repetitive. Like, hearing the same take from 50 creators is boring.
Yeah, it is.
It's boring. It's just flat out boring. There's no other way around it. And it's like, well, I think that's kind of where we found ourselves. It's like, what are we doing? Like, are we going to be making videos saying the same things that, like, these guys, it's like, okay, here's the guy with 400,000 views. Like, they're like the flagships, right? Like, they're like the leaders of, like, that whole thing, where it's like, you kind of we go to them for the most part anyway for that thing. If, like, I need some insight on, what was it, Thor? I went to Mahler and Drinker's stream. You know what I mean? It's like, once I heard that, I didn't need to hear it another 40 times. But by the time we got to the cocktail lounge we were talking about, I was like, I am fucking over this topic, dude. I do not want to talk about it anymore. And it's like, it's kind of like, I don't want to be the 14th person saying, whatever sucks. It's like, that's so boring. Like, I mean, but then there's like some value in it. I don't know. It's like, it's tough. It's like a weird balance.
Thor was where I saw both sides of it, like both clear. Where I saw, because one, that I came out of hiatus to that and was blissfully unaware of all the talk, blissfully not redundant and beaten to death by all the Thor talk because I didn't see much of it. But I also saw people criticizing Thor in other spaces outside of fandom in a bewilderment to that criticism. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. You know what I mean? Because they weren't prepared. They don't know what woke is. They don't know about the feminist agenda. So Thor hit them like a ton of bricks. It shouldn't have, but it did. And so I'm saying, oh, there is a clear value to this, to calling it out, to criticizing that still very much is valid. And also, there is clearly, because it wasn't just you, it was other people who were like, oh, I'm just so sick of Thor. There was also a burnout from that same subject. So I saw both sides of it, and I got to not see that burnout. I got to be kind of an observer because I hadn't really watched too much material until I said, oh, you know what, I think I'm done with my hiatus and kind of getting a little bit more into making content. So it was a weird place to sit where I could see both sides of that. And that's kind of what I mean. It's like, I definitely still think this is needed, man.
It is. And I think it's kind of an interesting phenomenon too, though, because you will see creators like inside of like whatever you want to call that, the media critique sphere, the fandom manosphere, that whole thing, who also rebel against their own fans, right? I mean, you saw from just some guy, like he just started trashing conservatives and like going crazy hot takes. And I was listening to a video today about the Eric July Rippaverse, and there was some female creator who did a similar thing and just went hard leftist and started taking all the leftist takes, even like in contrast to what her fans like. It's like it does have. I mean, it happens also. Inside it's maybe it's just that instinct to rebel. That it's like that Mark Twain quote. It's like once you're on the side of the majority, it's time to stop and have some self-reflection or something like that. Like,
yeah.
There's a little bit of that too, but it's also like, but I do believe that. So am I not supposed to say it because it's already been said so many times? It's like, I don't know. It's a whole new wild world out there with the takes. Take YouTubers. Like it's a you know what I mean. It's like it's brand new. Like it's not. There's never been so much access where you're, even if it's like a comedian or a journalist or something like that, like maybe the LA Times, let's say devoid of woke, the LA Times, the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune all have the same take. It's like that's still only three. It's not 3,003. Where it's like, you know what I mean? Where I don't know. Like,
I don't hundreds of channels with the same take.
Yeah, I don't want to be off-brand Midnight's Edge, is what I'm saying. Like,
like,
I don't want to be. Or by the time you get to me, you're like, ugh, we got it.
Yeah. It's almost like if you used to watch ESPN, I'm sure it's still the same way. But I used to watch ESPN religiously throughout the day, and especially like summer vacation when I didn't have school or didn't have college or didn't work or whatever. You would see a take be recycled throughout the day for all the different shows. And so by the time it hit 5:30, you already know everything there is to know and have formulated your opinion on this because you just saw 5 or 6 hours of people talking about whatever the hell happened. And that was the biggest story. So that there's that, but now that's like amplified because that was me watching one channel. Now there's like a feed of dozens of creators, big and small, all with that same thing. So it just feels like that much level amplified. And I go on Twitter or I go on whatever else, and it's the same thing. And so that's that same phenomenon being just like multiplied, tenfold basically.
Yeah. But then you said like as soon as you go outside of it, like
you realize other people don't fucking know.
That's it. That's what I'm saying. It's like when I had that conversation with that guy and that girl at the bar, and it was just like, God damn it! Like, wow! Like they're advocating for diversity in comics. Like that's what they're advocating for, and they have, and it's like no question, they're going hard at it, and you're like, wow, okay, like you know what I mean? Like it's like there is still a lot of value in like the voices that are completely like no. We have our own ideas. We have our principles. We have our ethics, and we're going to protect them. And you're like, oh, like when you're always in it, it's like that's what the world looks like. And then when you like take a step back for a minute, you're like, oh, okay, that's just my perspective. I'm just sitting looking at the world from here.
Yeah.
It is.
It's almost like the Flatlander. It was a Flatlander, where
Flatlander.
it's thing. I think it's a book or something where they see in 2D and then someone else sees in 3D or some shit. I wish you knew what
I
it
don't know
was
that
because I
one.
can't think of it.
No, no idea.
Someone in the chat or in the comments, please put this thing because I can't really research offhand, especially in this match. But it's called Flatlander. It's the idea that if you um only see two dimension, if you only see one dimension, there's something. If you only see two dimensions, there's something. You only see three dimensions. And I was going to remark how it's basically like going back from two dimensions to three dimensions, seeing one perspective and then seeing that perspective in greater context with other things. Is the point I was trying to make, but I can't
No, it's
make the point.
interesting. But
But
I mean, I get it. Like I get
yeah,
it. It's conveyed. Yeah.
okay, cool. Culture has been
Cool.
crime. Culture crime has been fought.
Solved. We did it.
We solved all. We solved everything. The world is
It's over,
saved.
baby.
Everything is good now.
Yay for
No,
us. Way to go.
the one last point because I do see I can make out that we're over an hour. I can't tell you how far over. But this seeing thing. Hopefully, I'll have it fixed soon. But so yeah, that's the thing. That's where another thing I realized I still do want to talk about this content sometimes. I don't want to talk about it all the time. I don't want it to be the thing that I don't want to live in a woke v woke world and all this shit. I don't want to give leftists space in my head rent free. I don't want to give conservatives space in my head rent free. I just want a human. But I do, sometimes there's still fascinating angles and interesting angles to talk about some of this stuff. I'm not about to watch Thor. I'm not about to watch any of these new movies. I may, I kind of may. Part of me wants to see Wakanda Forever. I have a fascination.
Oof.
I have a fascination seeing like what are you guys gonna do. I'm expecting, here's another one. That's another movie. If you look at Black Circles, they are expecting a lesbian woke fest. I am seeing
That's what I'm
in
expecting
hip
from the
hop
trailer.
and Black circles. They're like, this is going to be a lesbian woke fest. That's another thing. So many different angles on this wokeness, where some people absolutely don't know what's happening. Other people, it's become so mainstream. It's outside of it. On a boxing channel, they were talking about Lord of the Rings being woke. So this is broken contain of just our sphere. This is now a lot more mainstream, but there's also a lot of people who don't know. So it's a multifaceted thing. It's not just one smooth answer of it. And then it's us who have been at it for 2 years on this as content creators, at it longer as fans, and have a deeper reservoir information for it. So there's so many different angles on the whole thing. And all we fucking want is entertainment at the end of the day. That's all anyone wants is good entertainment. That's it.
Fucking A. I mean, that's it. But it was such an interesting lens, like into much bigger forces, because it starts off where you're just like, why does everything suck now? Like, what the hell is going on? Like, it's like, how, like, damn it. Like, it's like it's a coordinated thing. But then when, at least for me, when I kept doing more and more research and more insight and listening to more and more creators, I was like, oh, wow, like this opens up a whole new world to me that I genuinely did not know was this nefarious. Like once people like James Lindsay, for instance, connects the dots, I'm like, duh. You know what I mean? Like it makes perfect sense. But it takes people like that who are students and who are educators who can do the work and can kind of lead the conversation on a lot of that type of stuff. And for me, for you, for a lot of other people, that was the first real insight, was how entertainment had just been turned completely over and just became, here's what you need to think. And a lot of people were like, what the fuck is going on to the things that I love?
It was such a weird space. And I just realized I actually saw the two first creators, even though I couldn't make out what they looked like because it's fucking mask. But the two first creators I actually found, they weren't the first two creators I follow, but the ones I found were actually that Star Wars girl and Young Ripper. Those were the first two. Yeah. I found them both around 2018. I want to say 2018, 2019.
Was it Anna's intelligence that brought you in?
Well, it was actually Star Wars, looking up Star Wars stuff, and I happened to find her and see that she was, as you say, pretty intelligent. Man, Jesus. I wish I wouldn't have had the mask on so I could have. She's a fucking smoke show. But
she's sexy. Did you see her there? Did you see her at the con?
Technically, yes. I heard her voice. I looked in her direction, but I could not make her out in this fucking
Just saw
mask.
a blob.
I saw a bunch of female. It was her. It was called the Simp Cast. It was her and a couple girls.
Was Chrissy
and
there?
I don't think so.
I thought that was Chrissy's show.
It might be. I think it is. Like I think they have like a co-show they all do. Is that what it is?
All the girls are, yeah.
So I don't think Chrissy was up there, but she could have been. I couldn't see shit. I still can't see shit. So it is what it is. But yeah, I got to see them because that was the first time. I came across that Star Wars girl, and then I came across Young Ripper, and then I don't know what, it was a little bit delayed. Then I came across Yellow Flash and Gary, and actually Doomcock I think was the first one of the next wave of creators, and then just came across everybody and realized, oh, there's a connection, and these people do shows with each other, and then a couple years later I started doing the shit myself, and here we are. But it was cool to see them, and it was also, like I said, that first of like, what is going on? They were the ones that contextualized, like, no, there is a thread. This isn't just random instances of shit. This is coordinated, like,
very much
like,
so.
what is you remember that? It's like, what the you felt like you were crazy. You felt like you were the craziest person on earth. Like, what is going on?
You live in like this ocean of praise for this bullshit, and you're like, how? And you just feel like, I honestly, I told you, I was like, I must be a misogynist. I guess that I am. Like, right. I can't think of any other explanation as to how all this could suck so much, and yet everyone around me is like, yay, Rey Skywalker. It's just like, what the fuck? Like, you feel insane. Like,
yes. And that was like, it made you feel like you were being gaslit. That was gaslighting on such a major level.
On like a cultural level.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, luckily, I mean, enough people held on to what they believed. It's just, I don't know. We've shook that. Like, at least we know that we're not alone.
Yeah.
That's the biggest takeaway for me. It's like, obviously it hasn't changed culture. It's not like they're like, oh, you know what? We fucked up. But you know what? In some ways it has, because look, we got the Rippaverse. And
that's not going to be the last thing, man.
No.
It's going to inspire more people to create their own stuff, and that's going to ideally be the beginning of a kind of alternate entertainment industry, which was already kind of starting anyway in the wave of social media. You know, as much as I talk shit about it, it also allows people outside the mainstream to become content creators and do things on their own accord, which is what we're trying to do here.
And it's a direct response to the fact that, all right, if you're going to ruin everything, like, then you're leaving this market wide open.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I'm just going to make things that people want to see.
Exactly.
Like the Culture Crime Fighters,
for instance. It's the best podcast of all time.
In America. Ever. Best one in America.
In the universe.
In the universe. Suck it, Rogan.
Yeah.
We're coming for you, buddy. As soon as we get coming for you. No, I'm just joking. Yeah. I would love Joe Rogan, actually. Nah, I love Rogan. He's great. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's that then.
All right. Alrighty. All right. So if you like the video, please like the video. If you're so obliged to share and subscribe, please do so. Not just subscribing to me, Vigilante Williamson, but in the description box, you can subscribe to Foulball Productions, see his MFR podcast and the Cocktail Lounge and all the great content he has on his channel.
Yes, sir.
So please do that. But even if you don't do any of these things, you're just too lazy, you're too tired, whatever the case, you know what? That's fine. I appreciate your time. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. I guess I'll probably do another midday premiere for this. And I will talk to you guys later. Peace.
Bye. Have a great day. Love you so much.